Good evening. Is this on? Yeah? Okay. Welcome. My name is Larry Boda. I'm the English department chair here at Platt High School. For the past 20 years, I've watched and then organized this Hicks speaking and writing contest now in its 126th year. I wasn't here at the beginning. During that time, generations of students have competed here with speeches both sincere and humorous, personal and universal. Each year, I'm astounded by the talent and the thought that goes into the final products that audiences and judges witness. These young people you'll see here tonight have written and rewritten their speeches several times over. They may have agonized over just the right word, the perfect turn of phrase to win your hearts and your minds, to take you with them into their worlds. During my years, I've also seen this contest's winners and losers hinge on one component of the rules: memorization. Students, up until tonight, have had to memorize their speeches. Hundreds of students have done just that, and done it well. They have recited, purely from memory, speeches that have entertained and educated their audiences. This talent has always amazed me for its difficulty. As proof, you'll notice that I too have my notes here with me. But alongside all of those feats of memory have been students who have seen their chances of winning slip away because their nerves got the best of them. We've seen stumbles, mistakes, and tears. Otherwise, perfectly crafted speeches have received low scores because a young person forgot a line. It began to occur to me that we were getting away from the true talent that we were asking students to exhibit, the art of rhetoric. I'll leave you with this before I bring up my colleague, Mr. Stephen Smith, your master of ceremonies for this event. The Roman politician Cicero was the first to organize what we call the canons of rhetoric, those guidelines that one may use to judge the worth of a speech. There are 5, and they are in the order of importance: invention, arrangement, style, memory, and delivery. Memory ranks 4th. It's my hope that tonight, our young speakers will have spent their energy on the other 4 and not be ranked according to just 1. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the evening. Mr. Smith.
Despite appearances, I was not around for the first one either. All right, I have to begin with a confession. I sometimes, let's say, reuse significant portions of my presentation for this program, knowing that really only a few English teachers are going to come every year, and then others are going to be seniors and parents, and they're probably not going to come next year. So I can get away with some heavy kind of recycling and borrowing. I have to confess that now because after Mr. Boda's announcement of some modifications to the format, my first line used to read, "A tradition that has endured unchanged for over a century and a quarter." So now I need to amend that. A tradition that has endured relatively unchanged for over a century and a quarter is a testament to the generations of teachers and students dedicated to the idea of a shared experience and the thoughtful expression of ideas. Tonight, we unplug from our devices, and if you wouldn't mind now, if you haven't already, turning off or silencing those, and communicate the same way the first Hicks speakers did in 1892. Our speakers will share their ideas, their passions, and themselves, not through tweets, Snapchat, Vines, memes. And I have to admit, I actually really don't know what that is. Is that a meme? Is that a thing? And does it make sense to throw it in with those other ones? Yeah? Okay, good. I found that doing revision while you're giving the speech is really the best time. You guys should, however, not do that. Okay. Let's see. But in person instead, from their head and from their hearts. Our essayists will do the same, not through tweets and Facebook posts and emojis, but in lengthy prose, rich with descriptions, imagery, thought, and emotion. I'm sure our finalists use devices to create their essays and speeches, but tonight we celebrate and judge their ability to move us with words on the page and in person. While tonight's essays and speeches may last only a few pages or a few minutes, they represent countless hours of revision and rehearsing. Thank you to the preliminary judges, teachers, parents, siblings, friends, innocent bystanders, and anyone else who was asked or forced to be a part of this process. You can all be proud of to take part in their accomplishments tonight. Although the essay finalists may have avoided speaking in public tonight, we would still like to subject them to a moment of public recognition before the winners are announced later this evening. In alphabetical order, our essayists are Tracy Becker with The Art of Political Outcry. You need to stand. Oh, there you go. Omar Gonzalez with Music Mural. Adrian Janko with College Athletes Should Be Paid. And Lindsay Mercurio with Amoral Atheists. All right, I stalled as long as I could, and we will now begin with our speakers. Hope you're ready. All right, our first speaker warns of the dangers of stereotypes with I Am Not a Terrorist, Mohammed Barmo.
I can assure you, I'm not a terrorist. I am Mohammed Barmo. I'm a son, a brother, a sensei, a Muslim, and an American, but I have never, nor will I ever, be a terrorist. Although, there was a point in my life I did believe I was a terrorist. This was in the height of my power when I had assimilated weapons of mass destruction, and I was truly a force to be reckoned with. Of course, this was the 5th grade playground, where I was an overweight 10-year-old who struggled with the push-up. I couldn't be stopped. This was the first time I had heard the word terrorist. It was on the anniversary of the September 11th attacks on the Twin Towers. And as a class, we learned about the terrible act of hatred and murder. Before this, the biggest act of terror that I've ever experienced was Spider-Man losing his regularly scheduled Saturday morning fight with Doc Ock. And it was as my realization of the world had occurred, I was compared to the monsters who did these attacks. With one word, I became the same evil America fought against. With one word, I became the enemy. With one word, I became a terrorist. I remember the hole that opened in my chest as the kid spat in my face while I was on the ground. I couldn't move. I was in shock. My brain still trying to grasp the concept of terrorism, never mind playing a role in it. I remember the anger that coursed through my body like a poison. My entire being ached with heat. The air escaped my lungs and my chest filled with something that till this day I have yet to feel again. I couldn't just stand there and allow this to happen. I'd seen enough Jackie Chan movies to prepare myself for this exact moment. So I clenched my fists, prepared myself to swing. But in my moment of rushed heroism, he uttered the word, terrorist. And in an instant, I became a prisoner. I knew that whatever I did, I would always be the enemy. So I continued to allow this to happen. For days, he kept calling me this word. The teacher in the room told me she had to see it in order to act. I was alone, defenseless, and now outmatched against this fight. But why was I an enemy of the world? Why was I a terrorist? I had done no evil. I had taken no lives, so why was I an enemy of the world? I later asked that kid who earlier spat in my face, why are you calling me this? I begged for understanding. I needed to know who I wronged. And again, his response left me gasping for air and wiping the tears from my face. The words kept repeating in succession, and each time I thought about it, I no longer wanted to be who I am. Because you're Muslim. This was the only reason he gave for hating me. As I understood it, simply praying to a different God meant I was a terrorist. I told the principal afterward, and this kid seemed to stop his one-man war on me. It dawned on me that the reason he was after me was because he thought that my being a Muslim meant I was ready for the kill. According to the National Counterterrorism Center, you are more likely to be killed by failing furniture than you are by me, a Muslim American. You might be wondering, what's failing furniture? It's simply furniture that fails to do what it does, stepping on a stair that breaks, sitting on a couch and having that couch fall on you, a bookcase falling on you. In other words, a book is more likely to kill you than the man standing in front of you. Ironically, my religious teaching taught me not to act in violence. Islam is a religion that preaches peace. Those who use Islam as an excuse for taking another life are not Muslims. George W. Bush once said, Islam as practiced by the vast majority of people, is a peaceful religion, a religion that respects others. Ours is a country based upon tolerance, and we welcome all people of faiths in America. The threat I presented this child was very minimal. According to Zach Beauchamp, 1/3 of 1% of all the murders in the United States are committed by Muslim Americans. Of course, my attacker and I both struggled with our times tables, so statistics and probability would be covered maybe in middle school. Although he stopped pushing his agenda on me, his words still struck me. Whenever I practiced my own religion, uttered my own name, looked at a mosque, "Because you're Muslim," would resonate in the back of my mind. And it was at this point I believed I was doing something fundamentally wrong. 3 words will never mean the same to me. Eventually, I overcame the majority of this feeling because the topic of terrorism had faded from the media for a while. The world was quiet for some time. The biggest problem I now faced was whether or not the girl who I sat behind had a crush on me. You know, typical jihadist things. However, I was sporting the latest in advanced weaponry that gave me a unique tactical advantage over my enemies. A pair of Harry Potter glasses and braces. I was out of her league. But while I sat there in my 7th grade history class, it happened again. The comparison between Islam and terrorism. It was the 10-year anniversary of 9/11. Earlier that week, my parents discussed not sending me to school at all because my name had screamed Muslim. However, I went to school because, being the cool kid that I was, I had yet to miss a day of school. As the teacher explained what happened on that infamous day, who these people were, and their beliefs, it happened. "So wait, all Muslims are terrorists?" The teacher looked at me in shock and quickly shut that statement down. This comment came from a friend of mine who simply wished to understand the situation. She didn't have an agenda. She wasn't trying to belittle me. She just wanted to understand. And I know she meant no harm, but her words hurt me more than that 10-year-old ever could. My school was teaching us that terrorist equals Muslim. And again, I struggled with the concept of who I am. Was I the monster that appeared in the news every year on this same day? Did simply believing in something else mean I was a terrorist? I started noticing the Islamophobia in the world. The way my mother would tell me not to speak Arabic at an airport. My own language. The first words I learned to speak had to be silenced to make others feel safe while I was leaving parts of myself behind. I soon came to realize that the biggest act of terrorism those monsters ever perpetrated was the attack on the Islamic people. It didn't liberate the faith. It pushed us into a corner. It didn't make us safer. It made us number 1 on any watch list. It didn't grant us power. It gave people the power to put us on a travel ban. There was no positivity that came out of this attack. The worst part is, those cowards died with thousands of other Americans. They can no longer see the world they forced Muslims to live in, nor be punished for their crimes. Unfortunately, the majority of Americans only get their information from Muslims in the news. 62% of Americans haven't even met another Muslim. Let me repeat that. 62% of all residents in the United States have yet to interact with another Muslim. With that said, hello. I am Mohammed Barmo. I am a son, a brother, a sensei, a Muslim, and an American, but I am not a terrorist.
Our next speaker shares the insights she has gained through her struggles with the story of my story, Emily Elderkin.
Depression. I know what you're thinking, just another one of those hate your life, soul-searching, give me a chance to get myself together speeches. Some of you may even be thinking that this is just another speech to make up excuses for why I can't get my life together and why you should give me a break. But this isn't just a depression story. This is my depression story. People constantly think that everyone should be the same, but if you really understood depression, you would know that it's always different. There isn't just one story to hear. Everyone is different. This isn't a one-size-fits-all illness like the common cold. You can't just say that everyone has the same symptoms and everyone can get better using the same medication. Antidepressants don't even work for 30 to 50% of people who use them. Dr. Sylvia Pogini states, in a certain way, it seems that the antidepressants open the brain to being moved from a fixed state of unhappiness to a condition where other circumstances can determine whether or not you recover. Meaning that it may very well all depend on your environment whether you can get better or not. Depression is a completely different kind of illness, and hearing my experience will not open your eyes. It will not magically make you understand others' struggles, but it can give you insight into the intensity of the struggle people often go through. Keep that in mind. Since about 7th grade, depression has hindered my ability to function like a normal human being. I can't get out of bed without a battle raging in my mind. I can't communicate with those I am not comfortable with. I second guess every thought that comes out of my mouth, every thought that enters my brain, every small decision that has to be made. While I've done my best, I've still managed to maim myself more each year to the point of meltdown. But I know I can't use this as an excuse to why I don't function like other people. Normal people don't have to convince themselves that they're worth being alive every day. Normal people don't have to struggle between who they are and what they can actually manage to do. But I do. I have to fight myself. I have to convince myself that dropping dead wouldn't be the better option, even if it is the easiest one. I have to decide between what I'm capable of that day and what I want to get done, because they are never the same thing. Deciding on whether or not I can manage to get out of bed, go to school, or even eat. That can be a daily battle for weeks on end. These struggles are why my passions are so intense and life-consuming, why I carry around at least 2 books and my writing journal everywhere I go, even if I know I won't be able to use them, why I can spend hours consumed in a book so it feels like I'm there instead of here, why someone walks into my room to find a giant blanket fort because 2-day-long anxiety attacks are a thing in my life, and barricading myself from the outside world is the only way for me to breathe. But this is not an excuse for me. This is just another hurdle that I need to find a way over. It all began in a faraway land, one that I'm pretty glad is far away, middle school. As an awkward preteen who didn't fit well anywhere, depression kicked in, self-harm overtook my life for 2 years, I threw away the things I loved, I curled in on myself, blah, blah, blah. Things that we've all heard before. But I still managed to function and be a great student, which wasn't so stereotypical. This one aspect of my life caused most people to be oblivious about whether I was falling to pieces or okay. No one noticed that I was tearing my skin open in class, or that I stopped getting out of bed, because my grades were still perfect, just like they had always been. My perfect disguise. This continued until the end of sophomore year. Then it happened. The dreaded junior year. Even thinking about it now makes chills run up my spine. Memories of the passions ignored still haunt me, and I can still feel the ghosts of the tears on my face like permanent stars that I can only see. I thought I could mentally handle taking one of the hardest courses in the school, but small mental breakdowns littered my life like trash in the ocean. That whole year, until about March, when I completely drowned. It was like an oil spill in the middle of the sea, unable to be cleaned or controlled. Doctors were called, medication prescribed, stuffed animals brought home on random days, and God forbid anyone try to ask me to do anything, because I was an explosion just waiting to happen, and no one wanted to be around to get stabbed by the pieces of myself when I finally exploded. Somehow I still managed to get an A in the class, but that came at the price of my mental health and my sanity. I now don't think it was worth it. Almost a year later, and I'm still desperately trying to pick up the pieces. A year later, and I still can't manage to repair the damage I inflicted on myself. This experience did make one other heart and mind-shattering discovery for me, though. One that caused my world to come crashing down. One that caused 7 years of work to seem unimportant. 7 years of pushing myself, of striving for the best, of impressing teachers, all useless now. So here it is. I hate math and science. I hate it. I don't want to go into it for the rest of my life just to end up miserable, no matter how much money I would make, no matter how many people tell me it's my calling. No, N-O, no. I refuse to let anyone convince me otherwise, even if my brain is built for engineering, or I have so much potential. I know that this doesn't seem like a life-changing realization, but this was my world, my future, all flipped upside down in one fell swoop. Think about what this kind of realization would do to a mentally stable individual. 7 years of work down the drain. That would be pretty heart-shattering. Now imagine what it would do to a mentally unstable, depressed high school student. Can you say crisis? Because that's exactly what happened. Complete and utter world-exploding crisis in every sense of the word. Everything I thought I had wanted was no longer important. I didn't know if it was my depression ripping me to shreds or if it was actually me. The only thing I knew was I loved literature and writing. But you're bound to be a struggling author or a poor English teacher if you pursue that, right? Well, that just got shot at me more and more when I actually started to express that I wanted to pursue a degree in English instead of engineering. Every passive-aggressive insult felt like a bullet finding its home in my back. So my mental illness just tore those wounds open every day and told me I could never succeed. Told me my passions and I weren't worth it. It was a very convincing argument based on all the evidence my mind presented, that I was a walking disaster who didn't know what she wanted, that I couldn't even figure myself out or love myself, so how is anyone else supposed to? Reading and writing are what gives me strength. Literature is the way I cope with my mind constantly attacking me. When I can't find the courage to look into a mirror, a quote from Eleanor in Park by Rainbow Rowell blooms in my mind. Eleanor was right. She never looked nice. She looked like art, and art wasn't supposed to look nice. It was supposed to make you feel something. I know I can do it no matter what I see staring back at me. This is just one of the quotes I've ingrained in my brain from the books that have saved me in my time of need. My dependence level on them has skyrocketed, becoming my biggest coping method. I don't know if I'm mentally unhealthy relationship with literature, where I'm too dependent and too needy. No, my coping mechanisms are mine for my own benefit. Just like these experiences are mine, just like this struggle is mine. This is just a snippet of my story, my journey, my road to recovery, with all its twists, turns, dark forests, and light patches. No one's journey will be like mine. That's the hard thing about living through depression. There's no way for someone to find out a way to handle it without trial and error. Those errors can be mind-shattering for them, with no one who truly understands there to help pick up the pieces. While people are either tiptoeing around them, acting like their glass about to shatter, or acting as if their illness isn't valid. My friend Maddie once told me how depression was explained to her as, when your leg is broken, you need crutches, right? To support yourself so you can get better. Well, depression is the same. We need support to get better. You can't just do it on your own. Know that this is a valid illness, and struggling with it is an individual experience, one that will never be easy, one with coping methods that are individualized and hard to find. You can't generalize this illness. Something that works for one person may not work for another. That's something to always consider when trying to help someone. Work with them, not against them. But don't see people struggling with depression as weak, because we are strong. Don't act like we're fragile creatures that can't handle anything. We can do exactly what you do while our minds are turning against us. We can do everything you're doing and more while being attacked from the inside out. We fight double the battles. We are at constant war with creatures that have never been seen in the outside world. There is no break. There is no letting your guard down. There is only strength, perseverance, and struggle. But when we get to a good place, there is no happiness like ours. So be open to people when they tell you they're depressed. Don't think you know exactly what they're going through. Don't act like it's something they can just get over. Do not tell them to stop being sad. Listen to them. Listen to their struggle. And know that you don't know their full story.
Thank you. I hope the math and science departments will believe me when I say there was no bias on the English department's selection of Emily speaking tonight. Our next speaker examines the implications of a simple expression with the paradoxical nature of YOLO is, excuse me, Shaharia Furtis.
From the moment of our creation, we humans have struggled with the idea of our own mortality. For centuries, we made desperate attempts to immortalize ourselves, trying everything from mummification to cryogenics to miracle cures, even dabbling in magic. Of course, none of these attempts were ever successful. The human body is capable of extraordinary things, some great, like the ability to produce and protect life, and others not so great, like the desire to hurt and torture. Yet for all our extraordinary capabilities, the one thing we could never do was be immortal. Of course, that was before Drake showed up. 2011, the year President Obama released his birth certificate to prove that he was indeed American-born. A snowstorm in October caused power outages throughout the Northeast that lasted up to 11